I think the tagline for this episode is just, oh my god, this anime is so cool. Hello everyone, welcome to the Weeb initiative. I'm your host, the Weeb. This is a show where every other week I'll be talking about anime, manga, and everything in between. This week, I'll be talking about, different from what I said in the last episode, I will be actually talking about PROMARE, or PROMARE, the 2019 Trigger movie. There's a few reasons for that, but first off, some disclaimers. So, spoiler alerts, we'll be talking about most of everything that happens in the movie and the two prequels that they released, and also that this may be a really short review of things considered, because even though I have a lot of things to say, I don't want to really talk about everything that happens in the middle of the movie, so there's that. And just to quick explanation of why first this episode is coming out really late, considering the date is already when you're watching this Thursday, and why in fact I'm talking about PROMARE and not Little Witch Academia, the anime. So first off, I didn't know Little Witch Academia went to 25 episodes. I really was certain that it was like 12, 13-ish. And when I finally got the memo, I was like, oh boy, I screwed that one up. And then jumped to the closest question mark movie that I could find. In this case, PROMARE. I think it's one. I don't know really. BNA is a movie, probably. It's one of like two movies from Trigger that I have not watched as of today, and due to that fact too, I think the time is a bit great. Like, it's great to me to watch PROMARE right now while watching Little Witch Academia, because they are, and for those who know, the pun intended, but they are geometrically opposites, I would say, in the let's say Trigger spectrum. But I'll get there when I talk about the movie itself. The thing is, right, so the anime is longer than Little Witch Academia is longer than I thought, so had to jump for the next ship, and then I got screwed over. I will still say that I got screwed over at work, and so I couldn't really like record and do everything that I needed to do, in part by my own incompetence, but there's that. And with that said, let's actually get to the stats. So PROMARE is a movie produced by Trigger, also by Toho Animation and X-Flag. It's a I will say this word lightly, it's a mostly 3D affair, but the 3D in this case, I think it's purposefully made the way it is to symbolize some things inside of the movie. So in that sense, I would say that it is not obnoxious, even though it's really present. But anyways, the thing really is that first the stats. It came out in May 2019, and later on they released, I think with the digital/DVD release, the two prequels, being PROMARE Galo Hen, or Galo, I would say book, but some people would say part, so Galo part, and Leo Hen, or Leo's part, which are prequels to the main characters for the movie. And the movie has 1 hour 51 minutes, which in a sense I feel like it's one of the longest anime movies I watched in the last few years, if I'm being honest. And I think for the most part the release, that's it for the stats. The one thing that I want to talk about before I really start with the story, the plot of the movie, is that this, from what I could gather, was somewhat of a intended project to get back together both teams that worked originally, because at this point they were, in 2019 at the release, they were separated by different projects, different companies they were working on, because not literally everyone that worked in Gurren Lagann and Painting Stocking jumped out of Gainax to work on Trigger and Kill la Kill, and went into like other companies and stuff. So this was more or less an effort to get back the original team together. Notwithstanding, the VAs are not the same. Special shout out to the two main ones, I would say, that are really, their voices are specifically like noticeable because of their how much of an icon it is, how much of like distinctive they are. So there's that. I'll talk more when I get to the actual plot, but whatever. And the whole thing, right? So this is basically like the siege of the movie. So PROMARE is, and now getting to the story, PROMARE is a movie about, how can I say that? The initial pitch of the movie is rather simple. It doesn't really give you that many explanations at the beginning because it's something that they want to develop a bit for the later parts, even though in my humble opinion I think that the explanation is a bit like, how can I say that, it's not like the explanation is outright like bad explanations, like made up or whatever. I think that there is, and this is coming from someone who is a fanboy of Trigger, so I would kind of defend this movie, want me or not. This is an opinionated review at the end of the day, even though this betrays the original intent of the show of not bringing opinions, but even that. So the thing is, right, this is done by the same guys who originally did Gurren Lagann and Kill la Kill. So there are some wordplay, some on-screen gags, some different symbolisms and stuff that are kind of in there because they chose to put it in. And in a sense, I think that the way that the explanation of how the initial pitch works is so bad because they wanted to do it like that. So let's get a timeline here, right? So apparently at some point in time, weird things start happening all across Earth where people would just outright and explode, self-combust, let's say, and after that they would like gain the power of controlling fire for the most part. And this went on and on, so it became so bad that it burned, I think they say, half of Earth, and so very few cities remain, and so on and so forth. 30 years passed, and now we are living in what I would say is a world similar to the one of Darling in the Franxx, given that Darling in the Franxx, I think, if I'm not mistaken, was from 2018, so the idea is still fresh there. But the idea is that there still remains few cities all across Earth, and for that reason, we follow, in this case, the main city. I think it's Promepolis? I'm pretty sure it's Promepolis, though I could be wrong about that. And inside the city is basically a bit of a more futuristic kind of Tokyo kind of deal. Between Tokyo and, I don't know if you want to say New York or something like that. It is really interesting because in watching this, you can actually see some inspiration from things, from more Western things, and this is calling back to the fact that Trigger is one of the few studios with, let's say, a few of the noticeable staff of the anime world where they kind of bring in these references to Western culture in general, i.e. the whole idea behind painting stalking. For the most part, the thing is, so they have this whole affair with the fact that some people just control flames, and due to that, they will cause problems, obviously, because this is an action movie, and that leads to the fact that our main protagonists, our main heroes, are firefighters. Our main guy, Galo Timos, is a more rookie firefighter inside of these. I would say it's a local squad. They kind of do this gag at the beginning that they are kind of a really small kind of corp and stuff called Burning Rescue, and so they work in rescue / firefighting ops and stuff, and they have the whole crew. So we have Gallo as the main guy, Aina as the main girl, the and the romantic interest, though I think they do not kiss in the whole movie. Anyways, Ignis as the boss, Lucia as the mad scientist kind of deal. Noticeable here, and this is the first like real big call out from Kill la Kill and stuff. In Japanese, she's voiced by Shintani Mayumi, who also did, and this is noticeable on her voice and her delivery because it's like 99% there. She did Nono on Kill la Kill, or aka the school band, marching band girl, friend to Satsuki. So there's that. You have Remy and you have Varis, and also the obligatory mascot Vinny. And these are basically the, let's say, the main human side core of the group. And then we are already from the very beginning introduced to our, at this point at the release, because obviously this has to have a plot twist, our main bad guys, who are the Burnish. At the release, the word they use in English is Burnish, the people who can control flames and stuff. And the idea here is that they cause problems because of it's both a separatist problem because they want to like create their own society, just to Burnish without the humans, because at this point humans and Burnish don't work together, because every single time that a Burnish appears at the release, when they initially like get their powers, they end up burning something, hurting someone, and so on and so forth. So it is a really weird gray zone of discussion of whether or not this would be strictly a social problem and not like a law enforcement problem, which then brings to the fact that again, this is a work from Trigger, so you can't, like, you have to expect that there is at least a little bit of a social critique, but this is something that will be developed as the movie goes on. The main Burnish that are the villains are the Mad Burnish, who were a terrorist gang that at the very least from the beginning they appear in the city from time to time to cause problems and stuff. But for one reason or another, they don't actually kill anyone without actually a purpose or for whatever reason. So they have this kind of noble villain kind of deal at the beginning. They are only 3 people at the beginning too. The first one, the main villain at this point, or the second main character, if you want to say that, is Dio Fortia. Then the other 2 is Mace, who is the blue-coated, long-hair guy, and then Guerra. And this is the second shout-out because of the delivery also. He's voiced by Hiyama Nobuyuki, who is actually Vital from Gurren Lagann. So there's that. The delivery is same as with Nono, 99% there, so you can really like feel it. And then after introducing the main characters at this point, we still have the 2 that will be introduced as the movie goes on. There is Forsyth Cray Forsyth, who is the governor of the city, and the main antagonist in general for the movie for both sides, Vulcan, who is the captain, the commander of the Freeze Force, who are basically firefighter military, something like that. So they are like special forces for dealing with Burnish and fires and stuff. And as such, he will always be the one that actually gets like to be the bad guy in most of the engagements, even then before everything goes to shit. So he's bad from the beginning to the end. The interesting thing about the beginning of the movie at the release is that it has that really defined visual aesthetic, and also shows a bit of the Trigger heritage with their own visual signature, though it does like get across the idea that this is different from what you have seen to that point. So for instance, right, when we talk about 2019 Trigger, you have to think what came before it. So Little Witch Academia came out in 2017, for example. And again, I'm kind of pretty sure that Darling the Franxx came out 2018, if I'm not mistaken. So you have like to take that into account. So I think those are the two most present things when you take into account what came out before it. So this is first off, right, when I talked about geometry, this whole the whole thing about the aesthetic of this movie is using geometry as a piece of art, or like not really a piece of art, but part of a piece of art. So the idea that every single flame is actually a triangle, the idea that to be the opposite of triangle, to be the opposite of burning, there is this really either just a cube as a nice cube, whatever, like. And you see in the very first scenes that they use these special like bullets to like freeze everything in place and stuff and stop the fire. So they do kind of say that these bullets are like absolute zero bullets or whatever. Basically just shooting ice, which in a real scenario doesn't actually work from what I understand, because ice generally sublimates before it has any effect, so you end up like just creating vapor, not really like helping fight fire. But that's besides the point. The idea here is that they show off this kind of aesthetic from every single one of the like the particle effects of the movie being some kind of geometric shape, which then leads to the fact that the initial pitch of this movie, you have the initial pitch where it explains the things about Burnish and the Great World Burn and so on and so forth. But then you have, and I'm pretty sure it's like 15-10 minutes of straight up and no pauses whatsoever of straight action from the guys getting out of the, I would say the battle bus, but that's not correct, getting out of the truck, being launched with their own different mechs or parsuits, whatever you want to call it. I would say it's closer to something like Infinite Status rather than being an outright mech, something like Gundam. But that I'm getting into the nitty-gritty when talking about that. So to watch everyone like getting out of the trucks and with their battle suits, and the battle suits transform and like combine, and there is this huge cannon in the truck that launches additional attachments and stuff, and everyone like running with their own equipment. It just felt so cool because, and this is the thing, right? So this beginning of the movie, it really gets to me at the very least in a personal level, because it has this childlike whimsy where they just do this kind of real 100% action scene because it's just cool. It's what I feel at the release. And these being just cool, they just go like, you know what I really liked as a child? Super Sentai, or to the more Western focused people, Power Rangers. You know, when the Megazord comes down and gets together with other Megazords to actually get like a new power up or stuff. And that shit is nice, you know, it's really nice. And this is the vibe that I got from the beginning of this movie. So they start out rescuing people, getting putting out some fires and stuff, scaling the building, rescuing people and that are like trapped or in the roof and with their different stuff. Special shout out to the ones that are old enough to actually remember this. But the one scene where Aina goes down at the beginning to save the people from the roof reminded me a lot of that old movie. I think the original name of the movie was Thunderbirds. That, from what I remember, is like something from the 80s, because it was some kind of elaborate advertisement for some kids' toys. I wish I had those toys, but anyways, I'm getting really off track here. But anyways, so at the beginning they have the introduction of everyone. You have they putting on fire, saving people and stuff, and to that point where the Mad Burnish appear, the tree that I talked at the beginning, they start fighting specifically with Gallo and his special rescue suit, let's say, which is inspired by the feudal Japan kind of firefighter officer, something like that. Though the way that they present this is because apparently Japan doesn't actually exist anymore, or at the release they doesn't exist in the form that we know Japan as, and so they just say that the island from the east. Again, we are not in Tokyo, even though the city appears a lot like Tokyo and New York in some ways, but anyways. And so there's this whole thing, though they eventually kind of try to subdue the guys from the Mad Burnish. The Freeze Force appears, actually overtake the whole operation stuff. Gallo, and I have not mentioned this because I mean he's the guy standing in the center of the frame in the not only in the thumbnail but in every single piece of marketing of this movie. He is the second coming of Kamina, even though it's clear that he's less dumb for his own bad, and at the same time he's also less experienced, because come on, like you can't really do the whole of Kamina again. I mean you can, but it would be somewhat like in bad taste, I think. But he's the second coming of Kamina in more ways than one, not only because of the visual identity kind of deal, but also due to the attitude and way that he does things. Even though he flakes off more than Kamina ever did, but that's besides the point. And as such, he 1v1s the main bad guy at the beginning, Leo. Then the Freeze Force appears, subdues everyone. Being the second coming of Kamina, Gallo challenges the authority of the Freeze Force, almost gets killed, and so on and so forth. You know the drill. Then they come back. We have a little bit of downtime. Then, for whatever reason, we have the introduction of the governor, Craig Forsyth. And long story short, right? So from this point on, the movie kind of goes into really specific tangents to first humanize the Burnish and like take off the idea that they are the villains specifically. Then they want more and more to like bring Gallo to the side of the Burnish, showing that the Burnish are not really the problem that they appear to be, even though they kind of are, but it is not their fault that they have those powers and that they lose control of their power most time if they are not like helped with training and stuff. And from then on, right, so you have Leo, Guerra, and Mace going to the special prison. Then they find out, they kind of already say that at the beginning before they are locked up, but even then they find out that they are doing human experiments in the Burnish to do something. It's not specific at this point, but they do a prison break, they kind of escape and stuff, and meanwhile Gallo is doing whatever and eventually finds all the Burnish that broken out of prison stranded in a cave, helps them, kind of interacts with them, and kind of like develops this idea that I think the Burnish may not be the bad guys actually. Goes back to the governor, refuses a medal he earned. He was awarded, but then with the idea that maybe I did not help everyone because the Burnish are actually people and we don't actually need to go against people and so on and so forth. But then Crave shows, and this is the main crux of the problem here, that apparently ever since the Burnish appeared, the magma from within the earth, the Earth's core, has been going haywire and like exploding more and more, and eventually will consume like the whole of the planet's surface and basically kill everyone. And as such, he has a plan to evacuate some people, and he says outright from the get-go it's like 10,000 people only, and so for that reason we will have the selection. So, and it begins as most of any movie/series that has this kind of probable apocalypse coming thematic, where we have to evacuate, but we can't evacuate everyone, and then the whole thing goes from there. Then Cray basically like showing that he's the actual villain of the story, demonstrates to Gallo the experiments that they are doing with the burnish. Basically, they are like slowly killing the burnish to develop some kind of engine that lets them teleport or travel long distances, whatever. And so he basically says, and this is the most like out of, oh my god, who the fuck signed up on that idea? So basically the idea is that if he uses a whole lot of burnish at the same time, he can create a wormhole to travel multiple light years with a spacecraft that he built to evacuate everyone. And so he will take like 10,000 people to Alpha Centauri and basically let's see what happens, right? But then he needs to get a whole lot of burnish, and now that Gallo has been sensitized to their living and stuff, he doesn't want it, and going against Cray, he gets locked up, and meanwhile, the whole thing goes, he gets locked up, and then we cut back to Leo, where Leo at this point has like regrouped with the other burnish that he knows. They have somewhat a big community inside of these, I don't know really what it is. It's an abandoned building, but in the middle of the desert. But then, for one reason or another, the Freeze Force finds them, blocks everyone in ice. They only want to like get out before everything is Leo, because Guerra and Mace help him get out before he gets captured. And then he gets launched into a volcano, goes berserk, starts piloting his own like elemental mecha as a dragon made out of flames from the volcano he's in, and then goes to the city to like burn everything down and stuff. And then from this point on, we already like at the half point of the whole movie. In the size of his like rampage and going destroying everything, he frees Gallo, that goes back to the rescue force, gets his things, and then they go do their stuff and try to save everyone and stuff. And while fighting Leo in his berserk form, they find out a secret base out of nowhere controlled by an AI that's a personality copy of a really important scientist that they show at the beginning that I have not mentioned because he doesn't really have any way in the actual plot. And then he just like throws it out that, oh no, you are the guys that I choose because you are the only ones that I have, really? Oh, and they really throw this out there like, oh, what happened if nobody ever came? Oh, I guess Earth would be destroyed. And then he like lore dumps the whole thing that apparently, and oh my god, this explanation is terrible. Obviously, this trigger anime, like you can't have real great explanations. Like, I mean, to the point that I am in watching Little Witch Academia at the release, the explanations are somewhat sound. This one's not. So basically, at some point 30 years ago, there was this one random rift in time-space where flame organisms from other dimensions came into our Earth's core, and because of that, people who resonated enough with those flames developed powers, and so they can evoke the flame. And for that reason, we have burnish, and at the same time, because of the burnish that are leaving the core and they have a hive mind, every time that some burnish feels pain, every single one of them feels pain, and that's why the magma from the earth is kind of getting haywire. And so basically, right, if Cray has his way and almost kills a whole lot of burnish at the same time, trying to use the wormhole, if they don't stop it, when he actually activates that, it's when the world will end. And so the whole thing kind of goes from there. The AI just like pops out of nowhere with a mech. They unironically call it Deus Ex Machina. For those who are more literally inclined, Deus Ex Machina is basically a term used for when it is the solution because I rule that it is, the writer rules that it is. So there is like this not double entendre, but there is this whole thing where, yes, this is the solution that I'm giving you because this is the solution that I chose to give you because it's a fucking mech. And then we have a whole lot of callbacks at the same time because Gallo as being Kamina has to be the brawn, and I would say the brains need to be Leo, and so they have to like join forces, even though Leo doesn't actually like even come close to appearing like Shimon, but you get what I'm saying. And then they just like go there, and there's this whole thing where the mecha seems kind of goofy at the first, but then you are not Gallo like, I cannot fight, this mecha is so lame, okay, let me redesign this for you. And then there's this whole callback, and this is the thing, right? So they start like fighting with Gray, and then there's this whole the action scenes in this movie are really awesome and really long for whatever reason. It's really nice. It's really nice. And so like they start fighting, and then the redesigns basically the normal Gurren Lagann without like without Lagann actually having a face. So like the torso doesn't have a face, but the top face is the same from Gurren Lagann, even though the colors are wrong, but you know what I'm thinking. And then I was like, holy shit, they are actually doing all these callbacks. Like, holy moly, what am I watching? Is this a nostalgia trip? Are they actually trying to poke at my nostalgia? Do I like this anime more because of the nostalgia, or is this actually good? This is an actual question, okay? Anyways, so they go there and start fighting, and then this whole thing looks like Gurren Lagann all over again. And then they fight, and then there's this whole thing where, we're mostly okay, but now to actually get the problem really solved, we have to like help the flame organisms that live inside of the Earth's core to actually burn themselves out, because that will like satiate them, and this will correct the space-time continuum, because they can like break off the dimensional rift and go back to their dimension, and so we don't actually have burns anymore. It's a whole lot of bullshit, okay? And then they do like I will say it's a Naruto thing, though it is not. I mean, I don't actually remember when this first started, but I remember this scene specifically from Naruto that basically Leo gives everyone in the planet, and like everything in the planet, like these special blue flames that don't actually burn, but they protect them from other flames. And so he does that, and everything then goes and burns, and everything burns, and then after everything burns, there is this whole like scene where you see the flame organisms going back to their dimension, and like Leo kind of giving a goodbye to his powers and stuff, even though he was like the best person to ever do it. But anyways, and basically this is how the movie ends. Everybody's happy and stuff, and this is a major thing that I need to say. In between is the final fight. Oh my god. It is so good, and like I really like. I don't really know if I think this movie is good because of the nostalgia, but there is this whole thing where, for one reason or another, the mecha keeps growing, and there is this one. I don't know if it's one frame. I know that there is a point where it becomes bigger than Earth itself, and becomes all white because apparently the flames they use are white or whatever. There is this one part, and oh my god, it's so beautiful, where they. And I don't know, again, I don't know if I am like hallucinating that, or if they actually did it on purpose, but there is this one frame in when I think he's going to like give a punch out or something, that it flashes the face of Lagann without the glasses, and then it calls back again to Gurren Lagann. I was like, holy shit, man, don't do that to me. Like, oh my god, this is one of my favorite anime ever. Like, really nice anime. That's the whole thing. The movie ends with everyone happy. Really quick rundown of the prequels. They are both ONA, so I think they are like free to watch. I don't know if YouTube or Nico, whatever. The whole thing is Gallo's episode is basically the backstory of how Gallo entered the Force and his first rescue. That also calls back to a side character that appears in the middle of the movie that you will recognize just because of the hair. I don't know if she has a name even, but she's one of the side characters that like helps him know and kind of get the idea of the Burnish being human. But anyways, and then there is Leo's part. Leo's part is basically how he gets introduced to the Mad Burnish and like becomes their leader, though it's really shorter than it should be to a process like that. But anyways, that's the whole story of the movie. My thoughts really quickly here, because I think I already did a whole lot of opinionated here, but this anime is beautiful. This whole thing is amazing. And when I talked about being a good timing to watch Little Witch Academia, and then this is to see the two sides of Trigger, because this is fully 100% just cool side. It's like nice stuff, just action. There's not even that much of romantic tension in the movie, even if you try to find it. Oh, they fight a lot. There is this whole thing about mechas transforming, beating each other up with sticks, and Leo has a bow, and Gallo comes out with this Matoi, and basically a spear, more or less a spear, and it's really nice to watch and stuff. And while you go back to Little Witch Academia, it is just cute, cute girls doing cute things. It has action, or not say like it doesn't. It does have action, but it is so tonally different, because here we're having like some heavy stuff being dropped down, the subjects they enter, the whole thing, while Little Witch Academia is just, oh, magic school, Saturday cartoons, something like that. It feels familiar, comfy, cozy, while the same studio goes there and just like, yeah, social commentary in the middle of a fight, fuck yeah. And I just find this interesting. Talking about a bit about the OST, from what I remember on top of my head. So first off, there I think is only like 13 tracks for the whole OST, which is not a lot, but it's not too little. I think it's within Trigger spec, let's say. Specifically, there are two main themes, I think, that at the very least I remember. The first one is Inferno. Inferno, I think, is the main song for the whole thing, even though it's not theme of PROMARE itself. There is a song called PROMARE that is the actual theme song, but Inferno, I think, is the second one most used inside of the movie. One critique, and this, I don't know if it's my equipment, I don't know if it's the version I downloaded and stuff. I don't know if it was intentional. It may also have been. The thing is, at the release, for my opinion, even though I tried to find the CD edit for Inferno, I think the vocals are way in the background for how much of the instrumental is there. I know that for the most part in the movie they just use the instrumental and stuff, and the vocals like come and fade in, but at the same time I wouldn't think like the original song in the CD edit would have been in the same mixing as the movie. I think I'm making sense saying it like that. The thing is, vocals are too low compared to the instrumental. That's the thing. And then we come to the third most used song, and the one that is the more of the hype song, and the when they're turning the title battle and stuff. I think it's Superfly, the name. I just loved it. I don't know if it is on me. I didn't like look up the artists themselves, but it gave off some Blumen. What's the name of Yagyu's song in Kill la Kill? Blumenfuss? I think it was Blumenfuss, something like that. It gave off these vibes of the same song, you know, which I found kind of weird, because the theming and the tone is so different, but gave off the same vibes. Anyways, really nice anime. Art, animation, again, plot is within spec, in my opinion. If you like it, you like it. If you don't like it, don't like it. To me, I would just file this one under, they just wanted to like flesh out what it would be like if they remade Gurren Lagann without actually using anything from the original IP and trying to get away with it. Talking about the 7 years later is a bit iffy, because at this point Gainax has gone under for good, and I don't really know if they got the rights for Gurren Lagann. I mean, we all know that they got the rights for Painting in Stock, and we did have a second season for that, but I don't even know if they really bought up the rest of their IPs. I don't know. I really don't. And with that said, thank you guys for listening, thank you guys for watching. Please like, please share, please follow, depending on the platform you're in, and I hope you stick around for next time. Bye.